Welcome to the final season preview video of the DNVR Avalanche. We're talking Central Division predictions here, and as you know, we've never gotten anything wrong in our entire lives, so you can take this as gospel, even though all of ours are different, I'm pretty sure. So
It's funny because the first three of them aren't. The top three.
Well, I feel like the top two are pretty easy.
Apparently, we think the top three are.
Yeah.
All of us have the top three is the same. Then all hell breaks loose.
Starting at the bottom, no surprises here. Chicago, even on Megan's list, who's higher on them, not making the playoffs. Chicago made their decision this offseason with the way they went out and targeted players. They want another high pick. They want as many assets as possible coming in at the deadline by moving a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I'm Nick Foligno and Corey Perry playing prominent roles on your team means you're a deeply unserious hockey team.
Sounds about right to me.
Those are bit players at this point. Those should be leadership guys. They will be, but they will also play way too much. Connor Bedard will be special. He'll be fantastic, but even the best rookie seasons are usually 60 to 80 point seasons.
Yep.
That's not nearly good enough to make up for the rest of that trash can roster.
Yep. Simple as that. Next lowest on average on this list is St. Louis.
Yeah, it's too bad Megan's not here to defend St. Louis at their or preach St. Louis is the last place team.
I'd be here for the take, but
Definitely.
We're all pretty close.
we've talked a lot about St. Louis as a team that feels stuck because of the Jordan Binnington contract, despite having a roster that has kind of trended in the wrong direction almost over the last couple of years, and they have a decor that you just don't know what you're gonna get out of on any given night.
Yeah, you do.
Good offense, bad defense,
Just bad.
just bad all the way around. All right.
Justin Falk playing better than he ever has in his career is like their salvation back there. Colton Parayko has been underwater since the day they tried to make him the number one.
Yep.
And did not re-sign Alex Pietrangelo.
Well, there you go, bang on right there. I think the mistake was to let go, whatever the reasons were, Peter Angelo. And I think after that, it just never been the same team.
Yep.
You know, and I think Binnington and that has been erratic.
Worse every year.
I mean, it's just hasn't been good enough to. I mean, was he good in the playoffs that year? Absolutely, he was unbelievable. All right, they won. You got to raise your hat when you win. You reach the summit. But since then, he hasn't really been that good.
Well, and this is an organization that hasn't had a star emerge, right? Robert Thomas, great player, not the truly elite top of your lineup guy that they were hoping he could become.
You know, we talk about teams that have good center depth and how they're usually pretty good teams.
Yep.
You look at their center depth and you say Robert Thomas, Braden Shen, and Kevin Hayes is pretty good center depth.
Sure.
But Jordan Kyrou is probably their best forward. Mm-hmm. But then after that, Pavel Buchnevich is a good player, but he shot a bajillion % last year.
And that's a bunch of guys who go, yeah, they're really good, but who's going to be the guy that puts that team on their back?
Yeah, but also you have Kasperi Kapanen, you have Jacob Vrana.
Mm-hmm.
Are those guys...
Things at all?
Are those guys going to ever... Kapanen, for sure, has never come close to living up to the hype that had on it when he had coming into the league.
Yep.
And I think it's a pretty well-known quantity as a good player on bad teams at this point.
Sure.
And with Vrana, he might be a brilliant goal scorer, but he does all the other issues in his game have always been a reason why he's gotten moved around. And then obviously being in the player assistance program last year was a big thing for him. Hopefully he's okay and it's all good, but all of this, it doesn't even matter, all this stuff. They're just not good enough. They need to be otherworldly offensively to make up for the fact that they might have a combination of bad defense and bad goaltending. And there's no safety net for a bad Jordan Binnington right now.
Unless Jordan Binnington can run it back to 2019, I just don't see how they compete.
Well, I think it's one thing to get paid to get the contracts, right? Thomas, guys like that, right? Kyrou. But you got to remember, I always say that, like playing behind. We talk about Bo and Byron, right? Like playing behind Kel McCarr. So those guys were playing behind Ryan, big fan, O'Reilly, David Perron. So you're going, but all of a sudden those guys are gone, and you're now counted on with not only your contract, but on the roster spots to be the guys. They just haven't been that guy. They haven't been that. And I think you can see it in Berube's face sometimes. and he doesn't want to say it in the papers, but he just hasn't been satisfied by what those guys have not taken that step to put those guys back in the playoffs.
If they lose
That's the
20
way
of
I
their
look at
first 30 games, is Berube gone?
Maybe.
Like it's,
And I'm a
you've,
fan.
You've got to be getting close to the point with Craig Berube now where, hey, this isn't working anymore. And you're committed. You're now committed long term to Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, a handful of these guys. You know, Braden Shen. A lot of these guys have contracts for 3+, 4+ years.
They're a bit stuck for sure.
Yeah. So if these are going to be your best players, you need to get a coach that they'll at least try to. You have to try to change that math a little bit. Continuing to just run yourself into the ground. I mean, we talk about St. Louis. They're stuck in the fact that they try every year. They don't want to rebuild. Mm-hmm. They don't want to try to tell their fan base we're not competing this year. They want to make it look like, hey, we're going for it. We're going for it. Yeah. They've always been that team, and they've more often than not they have found ways.
And so the middle of this division is where things start to open up a little bit. People can pick the teams they like, can pick the teams they maybe aren't as big of believers in. AJ and Eric, you guys
we're pretty similar.
are not,
we got the whole thing
not
together.
believers in Arizona. I think that's a perfectly reasonable take. But I think Arizona is going to be the surprise team this year. I'm taking them as, I think this
Is
Logan.
it a surprise if they're everybody's surprise?
Yeah, well, maybe not. But
I'm just curious.
I
Go ahead,
think
sorry, I'm sorry.
Cooley's going to take that next step. Well, not that next. I think Cooley is
the
going
first
to
step.
raise
The
them
first step,
to
yeah.
a new step, I should say. I do think their forward core should be good this year. Mm-hmm. Look, who is Karel Vejmelka really? We're going to find out. Who on their defense is really going to step up into the top end? Probably no one, and that could be their downfall for me. But I think this is a team that, for the first time in a long time, believes they can really compete. Does that mean they make the playoffs? I wishfully think so, but probably not. I still think it's a team that's going to come away from this year that feels like they're building in the right direction.
I agree with that. But just maybe not as high as what you have. But I totally agree.
A much more reasonable take from you two, I think.
No. No. But I totally agree with every word you said, and I like what they've done. You know, from the Bear, the Touringy, and to Armstrong as the GM. I do believe they're going in the right direction. I do believe they peeled the onion the right way. You know, I think they did it right, and I just don't think they're going to get there yet this season.
Similar to Vancouver for me, this is a team that I think gets there in a very different way, but ends up in the same spot.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's because defensively, who's their best defenseman?
Yeah, they don't have top-end defensemen. They don't.
Is their top four going to be Matt Dumba, Juuso Valimaki, JJ Mosier, and Sean Dursey? Are you serious with that? Like,
The thing is, like,
Yeah.
I
You know,
wouldn't
like,
hate that
it's-
as if it's your bottom four.
totally.
But-
if you had an actual top pairing, that,
Yeah.
like shit, dude, you take Provorov and Severson out of Columbus and you
drop
put them
them on
there,
the top pair.
and you're like, okay, this isn't amazing,
Yeah.
but at least these are guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and it just gets worse from there. If you have any injuries whatsoever, and you will,
And then you're in trouble.
it just
Yeah.
continues to get worse.
Yeah.
The future is bright in Arizona. That forward core is going to be fun. As we've talked about in all these preview videos, though, everybody has a good top forward core.
Yep.
You know, and again, mentioned it with Connor Bedard. Even your best rookie seasons, 60 to 80 point seasons. You know, like asking for Logan Cooley to be what Logan Cooley's going to be when he's 23 today, he's not going to be that guy.
And
If he pushes 70 points, Arizona is throwing a parade for him.
And maybe the biggest reason I think my prediction probably doesn't become true, unless they're really in it at the deadline. Goodbye, Jason Zucker. You're considering
Matt Dumbo.
moving on from Nick Schmaltz. Like,
Kerfoot?
yeah, goodbye, Alex Kerfoot. They have plenty of reason to convince themselves to sell at the deadline.
Yeah. I think their home and away splits will be less severe this year. They
I
aren't
think
going to
so,
be.
too.
They're not going to win 20 games at Mullet Arena again, but I don't think they're going to win
7
9
on the road,
on the road
Yeah.
or whatever it was. You know, like that. They will be again a tough out, and we will find out. Is Karel Vejmelka a Coyote creation?
Yeah.
They won a lot of hockey games last year in nonsense fashion.
Yeah.
And you can do, and look, when you're well coached and you're committed to that process, You can win games like that because you just play hard, and hockey is a sport where weird stuff just happens. It happened a lot for the Arizona Coyotes last year, and they were still what they were. And so a better roster, but not look, again, they're gonna score some goals. But what's the difference between them and St. Louis? You've got a team that's going to score some goals, that's bad defensively, and might have bad goaltending.
Yep.
Let's talk about some better goaltending. Nashville and Winnipeg.
You're talking about some of the best goaltending, in fact.
Yeah. And everyone has them in the middle of this division to some extent, except for me, who thinks Nashville is going to fall apart. I guess Megan as well.
Yeah, Megan does too.
I really don't get it. I don't get what Nashville's roster is trying to be.
That's fair, man.
Cool. O'Reilly's a good player. What's going on with the rest of that forward core, man?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And you know what? Maybe Saros plays great. Maybe you're still getting great years out of guys like Roman Josi, and you're competitive, but I don't see the vision.
So for me, this is about one guy for me, and that's Andrew Brunette.
What you got, bud?
I think if he can coach up the way that he did in Florida, if he can just get his team to play fast, that gets the best out of Roman Josi. You can lean on an elite goaltender in UC Saros. The defense is still, it's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's not very good, but it's serviceable. I would have it 20th-ish in the
that's
NHL.
fair.
That's okay. Yeah.
With Roman Josi as
A true star.
playing in a high-octane offense, could be a monster. Is going to push again for a 100-point season, kind of like upside here for me.
Yep.
Philip Forsberg coming back from injury and having an actual full season. Ryan O'Reilly. I think the culture is super different.
That's definitely true.
There's no more of this. I've referred to Nashville multiple times this offseason as a country club because you had really high-paid guys who were just comfortable living life. Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene. And those guys got rude awakenings that this is they were reminded this is the NHL, and there are expectations that come when you get paid. Those guys didn't even come close to living up to those expectations that they had as leaders of that team, and that's why the culture is different, and that's why Ryan O'Reilly was brought in. That's an adult,
For sure.
you know. That's a man that you want to put a C on your team, and have a bunch of kids, Philip Tomasino and Tommy Novak and all the other kids, Evangelista, guys that they're going to be bringing up from the AHL to fall in line and learn from that guy. So Andrew Brunette, high-octane offense, wins you games. Elite goaltending, wins you games. An elite defender an elite defenseman in Roman Josi wins you enough games here for me in what I think is the NHL's weakest division.
I think that's fair.
And that's why I'm where I am on Nashville. I think Nashville and Winnipeg are completely interchangeable.
I agree
with the
with that.
difference being that the Jets are more likely to move Hellebuck and Scheifele at some point during the season for a Godfather offer, Scheifele to Boston and Hellebuck to either LA or New Jersey.
Whichever goaltending goes worse.
Exactly. Whichever, maybe even Carolina is the dark horse there. Those are if they move those guys, that's where the Jets fall for me. Because I think, again, their forward core is good. Their defense, with Josh Morrissey taking a big step forward, very similar to Nashville here. Winnipeg's players are better. But
That's where I'm at with
and
it.
I just think that when they sell at the deadline,
It could be off the cliff, yeah.
exactly. Cole Perfetti is your number one. He's not ready for that. Now you're searching. So I feel very differently about the Jets if their 1-2 is Mark Scheifele and Cole Perfetti versus Cole Perfetti and Gabe Velarde.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm so used to living in a world where Winnipeg just doesn't do the thing as far as like pulling the trigger on a trade.
Yeah, but they're up against it now.
They have no choice, yeah.
Exactly. They have to.
This is it.
This is Shovel Dayoff's job.
Yeah.
The rubber meets the road. The people of Winnipeg are over it.
Yep.
So he's got to make that decision this year. There's no more holding out. There's no more, well, they're here for another year. No, they're not. Those guys are gone at the end of the year.
It's true.
I mean, Wheeler's gone, right? So, I mean,
Might help them with some locker room.
sure. But, I mean, I think Nashville, Winnipeg, like you said, interchangeable. I think it's the biggest disparity we have on the board there, you know, like Rudo and Megan.
Yeah.
3 spots, you and me, but
And-
somewhere, we talked about that. It's a ham sandwich, right? I mean, everything is like you can put the mustard before you put
Yeah,
the cheese or the mayo.
totally.
Or the, I mean, it is what it is right there.
Honestly, 6th to 3rd in
Like,
this division.
exactly.
Even getting up into the Minnesota conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a big crapshoot there. I think that the difference is minuscule. Minuscule.
Yep.
in
I think
French.
there's Chicago way down here, and then there's St. Louis,
And then there's
Arizona.
the middle.
Winnipeg, and
Yeah, that's
Nashville. Any level, any order of finish would not surprise.
Yep.
I agree.
Same. All right. I think that covers that part of it. So let's get into those top 3.
This should be the easiest part of the whole thing.
agree.
I think the Minnesota conversation is a bit interesting. Colorado and Dallas at the top seems real easy. Minnesota is going to continue to be stuck because of their cap problems with their buyouts. So there's kind of a hard ceiling on what they're able to do right now. But that has been a playoff team for the last couple of years, and I don't see any reason for that to stop.
I'm a big Bill Guerin fan. I like the raised in Jersey, right? I'm talking about in the NHL, winning there.
And Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly. As a player, raised there, and then in Pittsburgh after as a player, and then management. I like what Billy's done. We're not friends, so if anybody's asking, this is not Rob Blake. I like Billy Guerin. It's an acquaintance. We're not. Again, like I said, I admire him, but we're not friends. But I like the job he's done. I really like the job he's done. So a little bit like Fitzy in Jersey. Again, they were together in Pittsburgh too as the second, third, fourth, whatever they were. I like the culture that he's brought to. You're talking about country club and all that kind of stuff. I like the culture he's brought to Minnesota, and there's a reason that I do believe they'll be right there because of that. And again, do I think they're the best team? No. But I do believe they'll be there, and they're going to be a hard out, and they're going to fight. And hopefully it is Dallas and them that are fighting each other. That was a bloodbath like last
Yeah,
week.
give me
It was
part
crazy.
two.
It was awesome. So I see the same thing this year for those reasons. I think it is the Billy Guerin effect. You have Kaprizov. That's a world-class player. I think it'll be interesting, but I do believe Minnesota's going to be there as much as Avs fans want them to be dead last on that list.
Well, last year, Minnesota, Dallas is a bloodbath.
Yep.
The year before, St. Louis and Minnesota is a bloodbath. What's
Yep.
the constant?
Minnesota.
It's Minnesota.
It is.
And why is that? Because they drag you into a back alley brawl every night.
I agree.
They're great defensively. Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon at the top of the defense. They're great. And they've got good young guys in Kalen Addison transitioning into the league.
Bowlby?
I'm
sorry, up front, yeah.
Merrill and Merrill and
Yeah.
for Goligoski, I think is still
Yeah.
there. Like
Yep.
you've got they're just going to be good defensively.
Yeah.
And every single year you look at their goalies and you go, eh. And every single year one of their
They
goalies
figure it out.
is
Yep.
great.
Yep.
One of them always is great. And so it's like, look, this is just who they are. They're very well coached.
Yeah.
They play hard hockey.
Oh, yeah.
To me, they are a more sustainable version of what Seattle has built. And part of that is that they have Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah, that's
They are less
the
prone
difference.
to variance.
Yeah.
They have a true blue superstar, top 10 player in the world.
Agreed.
and that's why they make the top 3 in this division. Where
Yep.
look, St. Louis, who's their true superstar? Don't really have one.
Jordan Kyrou's their best player.
And is he a true superstar? No.
No.
Nashville, O'Reilly's not that guy anymore. Really, he never really was the true superstar guy.
I mean, Roman Yossi's pretty good, but up front, no.
Talking about forwards, sure.
Yeah. I mean, Yossi and Saros,
Yeah.
great combo. Up front, nothing.
Yeah. Even a team like Winnipeg, yeah. Hellebuck, amazing. Mm-hmm. True superstar forward, don't really have one.
You're really good with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele.
Yep. Great players, but truly game changers every single night.
Yep.
That's not. That's
Is
what
Kyle
Minnesota
Connor
has.
dragging Ryan Hartman to a 30-point season?
A 30
No!
a 30-goal season, you mean? Yeah.
No.
It's, yeah. Kaprizov can do stuff like that.
Yep.
He's done it.
And then you have the 2 at the top. We've talked at length about Colorado and Dallas.
Yep.
And look, this is what it boils down to me, putting Colorado on top. If Dallas couldn't beat Colorado last year for the top of the division, they're never going to.
I don't know about never, but it's certainly not going to be this year for me.
Not with this core. How about that?
Yep.
I just love the way the Avs, puzzle is made right now. I like it. They addressed some stuff that they wanted to correct from last year. Forget about injuries. I do believe that they fixed a lot of those problems, and I think you'll see a lot of Avalanche hockey, right? Speed, and they're better size this year. Better, they're more hungry. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't see Dallas taking over Colorado if they didn't do it last year.
Yep.
Look, the reality here, you match up Dallas's best players against Colorado's best players. Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen are both better than Jason Robertson and Roope Hintz.
Yep.
Roope Hintz and Jason Robertson
They're good players.
are great.
They're really, really good.
I would say Jason Robertson is an elite player.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Their answer to a Kirill Kaprizov or a Mikko Rantanen. Roope Hintz is a step below as a 1C, but they have a really good 1C. It's what Minnesota doesn't have.
Well, Nathan McKinnon is in the conversation for best player on planet Earth. So.
We are believers in him having a heart level season.
Yeah.
Miro Heiskanen is exceptional. He is a top 5 defenseman in the world.
Not even the same stratosphere as Cale Makar.
Nope.
Cale Makar is a top 1 defenseman in the world.
Yeah.
And that's just it.
Yep.
That's the difference.
And then you get into some of that depth. I know a lot of people really like Dallas's forward depth better than Colorado's. There are certainly not as many question marks there.
True.
It is more set and forget.
You've watched
these guys have done it.
Pavelski and Sagan do what they do for years.
Jamie
and years
Benn
and
had an
years.
exceptional year. Wyatt Johnston was one of the underrated rookies of last year. There's a lot to like in that. Matt Duchene comes in. Dadonov is still there. Great. That's fine. Colorado's forward core, if it hits Johansson, Duran, Colton, all those guys, they're going to be just as good, if not better. But they will be able to hang with what Dallas has. The defensive depth, Devon Taves is light years better than
Essa Lindell.
anybody else on the Dallas defense not named Miro Heiskanen.
Yeah.
And you could argue Sam Girard and Bowen Byram are both better than Essa Lindell, Ryan Suter.
Especially
Hanley,
if Byron
Thomas
takes
Harley.
another step forward, forget it.
It's not close. And
Yeah.
right now, in their current iterations, Jake Ottinger and Alexander Georgiev is about a dead heat.
Pretty similar guys.
Very
Yeah.
similar. Love both.
Probably more faith that Jake Ottinger could take a big step forward this year than Georgiev from what they each did last year. But going into the season,
Yeah.
very similar guys.
Yep.
It's a razor's edge, but I think, and then if you consider all of the luck things, if the Avs' luck gets any better than it did last year and Dallas's gets any worse, the Avs comfortably win this division.
Yep.
I mean, comfortably like
6
4
points,
or 5
whatever,
points, like
yeah.
something like that. You know, where it's not coming down to game 82 again.
Right.
I would also say Dallas 14 OTLs last year. On
Yeah.
one hand, if they win half of those games, they easily win the division. But that's a lot of
They
games.
don't get into half those OTs.
And the
yeah.
Avs also played a lot of overtime games. Many more overtime games than they are used to. I think with the Avs being deeper this year,
There should
they
be
win.
less of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And Dallas
zone
has been a team that has been prone to a lot of overtime variance over the last handful of years. This is who they are.
Yep.
They live on that razor's edge of
Can they
could-
squeak games in or not? Yeah.
and if they win some of those games, they're clear of Minnesota.
Yep.
If they don't and they have 14 OTLs again, they open up the door for Minnesota to catch them.
Yep.
I agree.
Look, the season start. Actually, when this video's out, the season has probably already started, but the Avs season starts tonight. There's nothing more to talk about. It's time to watch some hockey. Enjoy it. That's all there is for season predictions. This series is over. We hope you all enjoyed. You know you can find us all season long right here on the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. For more content, go to thednvr.com. Read all of our stuff. Become a diehard. And enjoy the season with us. We hope to see you in the next one. We will talk to you then.